David Rockefeller, the owner of the Chase Manhattan Bank, called for a new world order openly in his book Memoirs, quote, "For more than a century, ideological extremists at either end of the political spectrum have seized upon well-publicized incidents, such as my encounter with Castro, to attack the Rockefeller family for their inordinate influence they claim we wield over American political and economic institutions. Some even believe we are part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists, and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. If that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it," unquote. American foreign policy analyst and former Deputy Secretary of State Strobe Talbot advocated globalization and world government in Time magazine, July 20th, 1992 edition. He remarks, quote, "Here is one optimist's reason for believing unity will prevail over disunity, integration over disintegration. In fact, I'll bet within the next 100 years, I'm giving the world time for setbacks and myself to be out of the betting game, just in case I lose this one. Nationhood as we know it will be obsolete. All states will recognize a single global authority. A phrase briefly fashionable in the mid-20th century, citizen of the world, will have assumed real meaning by the end of the 21st. All countries are basically social arrangements, accommodations to changing circumstances, no matter how permanent and even sacred they may seem at any one time. In fact, they are all artificial and temporary," unquote. Mikhail Gorbachev, previously noted, stated, quote, "The threat of environmental crisis will be the international disaster key that will unlock the New World Order," unquote. Gorbachev also remarked, quote, "We are moving toward a new world order, the world of communism. We shall never turn off that road," unquote. New Ager and student of Alice Bailey, Robert Mueller, former Secretary General of the United Nations, gave this frightening admission, quote, "We must move as quickly as possible to a one-world government, a one-world religion, under a one-world leader," unquote. The esoteric zeitgeist movement promotes a world system, resource-based economy with absolutely no money, a technotronic society where machines play a big role. The zeitgeist movement seeks to grow out of capitalism, free markets, profit motive, and scarcity, which they believe are responsible for aberrant behavior. Many people have concluded that the zeitgeist utopian system is socialistic and communistic. For example, after watching Zeitgeist Addendum, author and political lecturer G. Edward Griffin was convinced that Zeitgeist is advocating a Marxist socialist world system. He states, quote, "Perhaps the biggest insult to our intelligence is the main theme of the program. It is that profits are the root of all our problems today. That being the case, we must change mankind to reject profit, and we must work together on some other basis. It is never quite clear what that basis is, but whatever it is, it will be administered and directed by an elite group, at least in the beginning." I was stunned by the fact that this is pure Marxism. Marx theorized that people had to be re-educated in labor camps if necessary, to cleanse their minds of the profit motive. He and his disciples such as Lenin and Stalin and Khrushchev said that eventually the character of man would be purged of greed, and then the state would wither away because it no longer would be needed. Sure, we saw that in the Soviet Union and China, right? Yet this Marxist nonsense is exactly what is offered in this video program. It is communism without using the name. The enemy of mankind is not profit. It is a political system of big government. Yet this program is supportive of some of the most notable big government collectivists on the planet. Marxist-Leninists may be enemies of collectivists in Washington, D.C., but they are collectivists in their own right. The communist model is no better than the Nazi model. Samuel Adams, a patriotic founding father of America, repudiated communist and socialist ideas. The utopian schemes of leveling, redistribution of wealth, and a community of goods, central ownership of the means of production and distribution, are as visionary and impractical as those which vest all property in the crown. These ideas are arbitrary, choices and actions which are done not by means of any underlying principle or logic, despotic, ruling with absolute political power, and in our government unconstitutional. When one does a comparison between Zeitgeist Addendum and the communist model, it becomes clear that Zeitgeist is in fact promoting communism. N.B. Godke, in the work Encyclopedic Dictionary of Economics, defines full communism based on the ideals of Marx and Engels and others as, quote, 1. Social wealth will be distributed according to human needs, meaning things that are scarce will be distributed first to those who need them the most. Zeitgeist proposes having an abundance of resources and no scarcity, and thus the idea of distributing wealth according to human needs is rendered obsolete. On this point, they have merely updated the communist model by eliminating scarcity. 2. The state will wither away as there is no need for coercion.
The state does nothing because there is no state. There is no state.
3. Social classes will not exist. Zeitgeist states, the process which has been going on for centuries, if not millennia, religion, patriotism, race, wealth, class, and every other form of arbitrary separatist identification thus conceived, has served to create a controlled population utterly malleable in the hands of the few. 4. It will be a moneyless economy. Zeitgeist's associate Jacques Fresco states the system uses no money. 5. It will be a command economy. In other words, government planners decide which goods and services are produced and how they are distributed. According to Zeitgeist, distribution of goods and services without the use of money or tokens would be accomplished by establishing distribution centers. These centers would be similar to expositions, where the advantages of new products are explained and demonstrated. Exhibition centers will display what is new and available and will constantly be updated. So as you can see, a side-by-side comparison between the communist model and the Zeitgeist model shows how similar the concepts are. The Marxist website entitled socialismoryourmoneyback.blogspot.com, after reviewing the Zeitgeist movement and their admissions, stated this on July 26, 2009, quote, "This, surely, is the same as what we call world socialism," unquote. So even the socialists will admit that the Zeitgeist movement is in fact world socialism. Adam Zwas explains, quote, "Communism and the Marxist utopia of a moneyless society where products were distributed rather than sold and bought," unquote. Zeitgeist's main source, Acharya S., promoted the founder of communism, Karl Marx, on her website. It no longer looks like this, but using archive software, you can see how her website looked in the years past. She quotes Karl Marx, defaming religion, thus showing her support of Marx and communism. Many people have noticed that the modern New World Order, as advocated by the elite, contains communist ideals within it. So it seems that Zeitgeist is helping the New World Order with their utopian approach rather than destroying it.
They had a biblical philosophy. They gave us a republic. When Ben Franklin walked out of the building, one of the ladies said, "Mr. Franklin, what kind of government did you give us?" He said, "A republic, if you can keep it." Republics are hard to keep. We've lost ours, folks. We are not a republic anymore. We have degenerated to a democracy, and the next step is totalitarianism. We're that close to becoming a totally socialistic and then communistic country in America. You watch, it's going to happen real soon. What they're going to do next time is manufacture a depression, coming real soon probably, collapse the U.S. economy, which can easily be done overnight. And then everybody will line up and say, "Oh, hey, we're starving. What can we do?" They're going to say, "You know, we really got a problem. We need to solve this."
Constance Cumby recognized that the New Agers desire a communist world system, quote, "The New Agers feel that the program they are offering the world would satisfy the basic desire of communists in that it proposes a form of world socialism." These books were calling for a new world order with an accompanying global food redistribution program aided, of course, by modern technology, i.e. computers, unquote. A redistribution program aided by modern technology and computers is exactly what the Zeitgeist movement is advocating. Notice how similar Zeitgeist's plan is to the New Age agenda just mentioned in Constance Cumby's book. In the Zeitgeist orientation lecture, Peter Joseph states, Just as each city has a central organizational dome which functions as the brain along with its nervous system, consisting of computerized environmental monitoring via satellite and electronic probes, the larger world complex absorbs each city and monitors the broad spectrum of the environment, making sure there isn't a problem or material resource needed in any of the individual cities, while also regulating larger order processes for all the cities and the environment as a whole. Theosophist Alice Bailey concurs, quote, "The true communist platform is sound." Thus, it is not surprising why Zeitgeist advocates a similar system, as the connection they have to Theosophy and the New Age has already been established. Zeitgeist is merely the fulfillment of the New Age agenda, yet they are not telling you that. So the Theosophists and New World Order advocates would love nothing more than for people to join the Zeitgeist movement. In fact, at 47 minutes and 25 seconds into the Zeitgeist orientation lecture, Peter Joseph cites a quotation of Karl Pearson. What is interesting is that the man that Joseph admiringly appeals to support his worldview, Karl Pearson, was a notorious eugenicist and social Darwinist who advocated war against certain races. He was a socialist and contemporary of Karl Marx. In fact, Theodore M. Porter, in his work Karl Pearson, The Scientific Life in the Statistical Age, states, quote, "Pearson's appreciation of Marx was real, especially in early 1881. In his first essay on socialism, he called Marx, quote, one of the most extraordinary characters which this century has produced," unquote. New World Order research involving lectures, radio addresses, and writing used to be conducted by people such as William Cooper, Fritz Springmeier, John Todd, Randall N. Baer, and Kent Hovind. The unifying factor in all of these people was that they were all Christians. They would expose the New World Order and its New Age Luciferian communist aims. They would promote belief in Jesus Christ and the Word of God, and tell people to resist the mystery religions of Theosophy and Freemasonry while exposing them. However, all of these men have either been murdered or framed and jailed, silenced. William Cooper was shot dead in 2001 as he was ambushed. Fritz Springmeier was framed, discredited, and jailed. Randall N. Baer had his car ran off of a mountain pass. John Todd was framed, discredited, jailed, and then murdered. Kent Hovind was singled out for tax evasion and then jailed.
Okay, so Fritz Springmeier, you knew him, right?
Yes.
Okay, you got some letters from him, is that?
Yes, when Fritz, when they put Fritz in prison, and there's been, it was pretty much a trumped up charge of, I think marijuana or something, talk of robbing a bank, this type of stuff. He got put in prison, and I started corresponding with him at that point because I had read several of his books and actually talked to him personally on several occasions. And we really, all we could do at that point is correspond.
Right.
So I've got several handwritten letters from him, and the last time I had heard from him was several years back, and he had been in it wasn't his fault, and I think it might have been arranged where he was in a fight. He didn't fight back.
Yeah.
The guy came and he told me that he was just using his head like a soccer ball, essentially.
Really?
Oh, it was sad.
Wow.
It was sad. And Fritz, he never complained in these letters.
Yeah.
He never, it wasn't like he was like, oh, woe is me, I'm in prison and this or that. He always had a great attitude. He was trying to help other people in there. I believe he had a ministry going.
Amen.
And, I can't say enough good about Fritz Springmeier.
Now that the Christian New World Order researchers have been silenced, the truth movement has been infiltrated by people who purport to be against the New World Order, yet they advocate the New Age religion, a new utopia, and they all speak against Christianity and the Bible. The people who took over the truth movement and who are allowed to live and teach the public, such as Jordan Maxwell, Michael Tessarion, Peter Joseph, David Icke, and others, all of these people have one unifying factor. They are all strictly against Christianity, and they are all heavily associated with the New Age, Theosophy, and Freemasonry.
I think Jordan Maxwell is somebody who is just deceived. It's my personal opinion, and I could be wrong about this, that Jordan Maxwell is not a paid disinformation agent, or he's not somebody that is a high-level Satanist. I think that Jordan Maxwell is like many of us in the truth movement. We have been deceived by a lot of very clever disinformation. In his case, Blavatsky and the secret doctrine and that whole concept that really got him on a roll. Jordan Maxwell is a person who believes that the entities that he's involved with, that he had experiences with in the desert, etc., were Pleiadians. And I think that he thinks that they chose him to teach the world certain things. So in that context, it's very hard for him or really anybody to break free of that paradigm, because in that paradigm he gets to be this super special individual, and we all are vulnerable to that. If we have supernatural experiences where entities tell you that you are the chosen one and that you're going to do something, it's very hard not to believe them, because that's what you want. And so it's very hard, and of course, in doing so, in thinking, okay, these guys, these Pleiadians are on my side, when in actuality they're demons, they would coax him to do certain things, like he mentioned later, to go into these seances or whatever. In doing that, they can have more control over him, because they're demons and they have a system to get more control over a person. And if they do that, then he can start to be used more thoroughly by them, and he can do exactly what he promised them that he would do, to be a channel for them. And that's what his life has been about, being used, despite his probably very good intentions. He has been a tool of the New World Order. And so my view is that Jordan Maxwell's ends up promoting the New World Order. In that particular session, he goes on to say that the New World Order, that a bad time is coming, but that time must come in order for it to be destroyed, to bring the birth of the New World Order. Out of chaos comes order. So he was saying that the old system must be destroyed to come the new system. And that is exactly what the double-headed phoenix rising out of the ashes is all about. The old system of the New World Order is what we see building up all around us. It is going to get really, really bad, but it is going to be destroyed, in a sense, because that faucet is being run by evil. We all know that the things that are happening to the world right now are being done because of evil. So if evil's causing all those things, evil can also turn that faucet off at just the right time in order to make it seem like whoever stopped it, and therefore is the savior. So that new system will seem like the utopia that Jordan Maxwell says we all need to wait for. It's interesting that he says that at that time that's when the aliens, or gods, are coming back to stop it. That's the deception. That's what the people in the have been saying of the occultists, saying that that's what the demons are going to do for a long time. It's easy to be seduced, especially in Tsarian's case, who was raised since 11 years old saying this is truth. He was raised by Rosicrucians, raised by these people by his own admission. He was doing the tarot cards at the age of 11 by his own biography. This is the example of being raised in a system, being told one thing is true and the other thing is not. It's biased is what it is, but nevertheless, I think in that reason these people deserve our sympathy. One way or the other, they are deceived. Even if they are intentionally doing it, which is possible in the case of Tsarian, and it's possible in the case of Maxwell too, I suppose. Even if they're intentionally doing it, they have to deserve our sympathy and even our prayers, because even if they're intentionally doing it, they're still deceived. But to wrap that up, Blavatsky and everything that came out of that was what 1 Timothy calls the doctrines of demons, and in the last days people will believe. The New Age and all of that was birthed by Blavatsky, and the New Age ideas will be used to bring in this new world order.
The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident. Unless nations will agree to work together to tackle these cross-border challenges posed by population growth, overconsumption of resources, and environmental degradation, the prospects for a decent life on our planet will be threatened.
But this callous disregard for the right to life of every human on the face of the earth has been predicted before in the New Testament. John was moved to write, quote, Yea, the time cometh, that whosoever killeth you will think that he doeth God's service, unquote. The New World Order, ladies and gentlemen, will sail in on a sea of blood.
The same New Agers who call for peace, love, harmony, and world unity, when confronted with separatists, for example, fundamentalist Christians, you start to see a darker side to them. They do not appreciate people who will not adopt their New Age views. For example, a major New Age figure, David Spangler, who was in a group known as Planetary Citizens, which was a UN group, stated something to the effect of, we can take all the marshmallows, all the scriptures, all the tablets, and have a jolly good bonfire. So essentially, he's promoting the abolition of these faiths. Similarly, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the influential New Age guru sought out by the Beatles, stated, quote, There has not been, and there will not be a place for the unfit. The fit will lead, and if the unfit are not coming along, there is no place for them. In the place where light dominates, there is no place for darkness. See, in his thinking, the fit are the New Agers, and the unfit are those who do not adopt the New Age beliefs. People who are, for example, fundamentalist Christians, Jews, people like this. So essentially, you see a lot of intolerance within the New Age movement. It's not all nice and dandy with these people. You know, they have the mask, they have the appearance of peace, love, harmony. But in their writings, they do come out and say that there is no place for Christians and people who do not accept their beliefs. In the book of Co-Creation, New Age leader Barbara Marx Hubbard states, quote, Out of the full spectrum of human personality, 1/4 is electing to transcend, 1/4 is resistant to election. They are unattracted by life ever evolving. Now as we approach the quantum shift from creature human to co-creative human, the destructive 1/4 must be eliminated from the social body. Fortunately, you, dearly beloveds, are not responsible for this act. We are. We are in charge of God's selection process for planet Earth. He selects, we destroy. We are the riders of the pale horse, death. Alice Bailey explained what the New World Order will do to those who refuse to accept it. Quote, Let us never forget that it is the life, its purpose, and its directed, intentional destiny that is of importance, and also that when a form proves inadequate, or too diseased, or too crippled for the expression of that purpose, it is, from the point of view of the hierarchy, no disaster when that form has to go. Death is not a disaster to be feared. The work of the destroyer is not really cruel or undesirable. Therefore, there is much destruction permitted by the custodians of the plan, and much evil turned into good, unquote. Blavatsky's peer, Aleister Crowley, said an Egyptian entity told him Christianity would be destroyed at the advent of the New Age, quote. A peer of Blavatsky's, often called the prophet of the New Age, Aleister Crowley, claimed to have been visited in the spring of 1904 by an Egyptian entity called Oase, who foretold to Crowley the end of Christianity, unquote.
But if you dig deep into the literature, yes, they're going to be extremely intolerant. David Spangler had talked about the Luciferic initiation and these types of things. And we look in the Bible and we can look at like Revelation 13 and where all they that do not receive the mark and the mark of the beast in their right hand or their forehead, you know, are going to essentially forfeit their life. This is how intolerant it's going to become. It's going to be their way or no way. And so, no, they're not going to have any tolerance. I think at first they're going to come as real nice guys, though. I don't think they're going to do that right off the bat. But eventually it's going to get to the point where enough people have bought into it and enough strong delusion is there that, yeah, they're not going to be tolerant whatsoever.
Barbara Marx Hubbard states, The end of this phase of evolution shall come. All will know their choice. All will be required to choose. All who choose to be natural Christs will be guided from within as to how to proceed. All who choose not to evolve will die off. The kindergarten class of Earth will be over, unquote. Robert Mueller, previously mentioned, states, quote, I am surprised that no one has yet thought of creating a pro-Earth, humanity-challenging organization which would put itself in the shoes of our Mother Earth and rejoice whenever humans diminish in numbers or consume less. It would give yearly prizes to people, events, or institutions which achieve a reduction of the human population or of the consumption of Earth resources. The first prize should go to the United Nations, which through its World Population Conferences and anti-population work has prevented 2,200,000,000 more people from being born between 1952 and the year 2000.
The more you look into where the 2012 ideas originated, and honestly, most of the 2012 theories are relatively new. That is, people attaching significance to the fact that the Mayan calendar ends. And almost without exception, they are by people that are channeling entities. A lot of times they say it's the Pleiadians that they're talking to, or the Syrians, or in the case of David Wilcock, it's Ra and Seth. Most of the time, what the entities are telling the people don't always match up, but they always seem to be telling the same things. And for the most part, a lot of those early people that got the information from spiritual entities were saying that it was a great cosmic enlightenment that was coming in 2012. And so that to me seems to be the most direct idea that the spirit world wants us to think, because it's oftentimes accompanied with this idea that they want the person they're telling to go out and tell more people. So 2012 became significant on the internet because people felt like it was their mission to tell other people because they were having supernatural experiences. Most of the 2012 theories will fall into one or two categories. Either they're going to be, that in 2012 there's going to be some great enlightenment. They say it's a spiritual evolution or a consciousness shift or a vibrational change or something to that effect. And the other half of it seems to be more about a cataclysmic events that are going to happen in 2012. Usually, they're based off the idea that the Mayan calendar ends or restarts in 2012.
2012 is being pushed on the public through books, documentaries, speakers, and even major motion pictures. We are meant to believe that December 21st, 2012 will either be a catastrophe for humanity or a time when there is a consciousness enlightenment and a world shift, a time when humanity evolves. However, when you consult the scholars who study the Mayan calendar, they don't seem to support these views at all. University of Florida anthropologist Susan Gillespie says the 2012 phenomena comes from the media and from other people making use of the Maya past to fulfill agendas that are really their own. Despite the publicity generated by the 2012 date, Susan Milbrath, curator at Latin American Art and Archaeology at the Florida Museum of Natural History, stated that, quote, "We, the archaeological community, have no record or knowledge that the Maya would think the world would come to an end in 2012.
I think probably the most significant reason that all of them are wrong is because what they say that is going to happen in 2012 isn't. That is, although the Mayan calendar might be ending, there is no galactic alignment, whether it be the Earth actually won't be aligning with the center of the galaxy in the sense, and that actually won't happen for another 30 million years. So, and even if it was, there's no necessarily any evidence that anything would happen, but it's really a moot point because there isn't anything happening. Secondly, there is no actual alignment of the planets. It's another thing that people are saying is going to cause the enlightenment or the catastrophes. And this goes on and on. It's the same thing with the solar flares. It's the same thing with Planet X or Nibiru, or all those things aren't happening. And it's very interesting how you actually can go point by point and find out that each one of those supposed catalysts aren't true.
Sandra Noble, Executive Director of the Foundation for the Advancement of Mesoamerican Studies in Crystal River, Florida, states, "To render December 21st, 2012 as a doomsday event or a moment of cosmic shifting," she says, "is a complete fabrication and a chance for a lot of people to cash in," unquote. Many people are indeed cashing in because of the 2012 hysteria, but the reason 2012 is being pushed on the public so much is because it is in 2012 when the elite occultists and the New Age advocates plan to usher in the Age of Aquarius one world system. Siri Data, points out that the New Age consensus is that the age of Aquarius, one world system, will be ushered in 2012. Quote, "It is generally agreed that the actual time that we enter the age of Aquarius will be 2012. Unquote. Could this whole 2012